So how about this? When I'm done the operation, we'll circle back.
When your operation involves your drone,
you're interrupting.
Okay.
Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth.
I'm talking to you here.
Yes, and I'm operating.
Okay.
I was operating before you were talking.
Okay. Right now.
Are you done?
You are operating, okay?
And
you are pointing the camera inside a police station.
Inside the police station with blacked out windows. I'm operating. I was operating before you interrupted me. So how about this? When my battery is done and it's safe for me to return, I will, and then we can continue this conversation.
No, you're going to put the drone down now, and we're going to have
under what order?
Right now.
No, we're not. You don't dictate what happens just because you're wearing a silly little uniform. You're not investigating a crime. You can't articulate a crime.
I'm not articulating any crime. Right now, we're investigating
Then how are you compelling action? You can't compel anything, especially since you don't know what you're talking about. Are we done? All right, are we done now?
No, we're not.
Because you're interrupting a flight operation. Are we done?
Okay, is it a planned operation with the FAA right now?
The FAA? What am I, in the United States of America?
My apologies. I mixed up my terminology.
That is one big pile of shit.
Hey everyone, I wanted to share the story of what led to the moment when 4 police officers suddenly appeared, surrounding me and my vehicle. On April 12, 2025, I started my day with several flight operations in and around 6 nations of the Grand River, where I filmed and photographed local businesses and some of the area's natural beauty. After leaving 6 Nations and Caledon, Ontario, I traveled to Cayuga, a small town along Highway 3. After capturing more photos for Google Maps, I took a 360 image, or actually 2 360 images of the Cayuga detachment for the Ontario Provincial Police. About 10 minutes after I took flight, several officers came out and started to look for my drone and me, the operator. I was setting up the final 360, or just after taking it, I was flying Dani, my drone, back to its home point. Before I even knew it, I was surrounded by 3 constables and 1 supervisor. The only constable who directly engaged me was Constable Christopher Dominey. Chris is a dead ringer for Rod Farva of Super Troopers fame.
Give me a pie, apple. Do you want me to hold the spit? Just kidding, Officer Farva.
Farva, I mean Dominey, asked me if I was properly licensed. This was before he even established if I needed a pilot certificate. In Canada, it isn't called a license. Chris doesn't even know what is required and when. One of the things I like to do when confronted by people who seem sure that they know what they are talking about, but clearly don't, is engage in what is referred to as the Socratic method. This is when you ask them questions to dig down, to find out where their information asymmetry lies. I asked him if he knew the name of the regulation or section. He didn't know either, but he could only piece together that it was likely Transport Canada that governs aircraft and flight operations in Canada. Good for him. He got that right. My 8-year-old niece could get that right.
Do you want to dip aside your meal for a quarter more? Want me to punch aside your face for free?
Chris's answers and demands clearly show that he is not familiar with the regulations governing remotely piloted aircraft systems. Additionally, he does not know the size of my drone or what regulations might apply to my flight operations. Despite this lack of knowledge, Chris insists he has the authority to force me to land my drone, which he does not. At most, he can ask me about the weight of my drone, but I'm not obligated to provide that information. This information deficit doesn't stop Chris from insisting that he has the authority to compel me to land my drone. He has no statutory authority to do so. At most, all he can do is ask me what the weight of my drone is, but I'm not even required to give him that absent reasonable or probable grounds. Chris operates on bravado and paranoia, which leads to a misunderstanding. He talks over me to escalate the situation, so I respond in kind. He demanded immediate compliance, which is unacceptable, so I assert myself and put him back in line. Chris later demonstrates his ignorance by asking me if I have approved my flight with the FAA. Now, he corrects himself after I point out that we are not in the U.S. Chris is so clueless that he doesn't even know what drone pilots have to do or when. However, on the other hand, I know my obligations as a responsible operator. The weight and the nature of the airspace dictates what a drone pilot is required to do in Canada. Drone operators in Canada do not always have to register every single flight with the FAA, or actually in Canada, NAV Drone or NAV Can. Not all drones in Canada are required to be registered. Not all drone operators or drone pilots are required to have a pilot certificate. Again, Chris calls it a license. It is not a license. In Canada, you don't just call up the local ATC, air traffic control. You call what is referred to as an FIC. In Ontario, for the entire province, there's one in London. I, for this particular flight, was not required to contact the FIC or register my flight through NAV Drone. Chris doesn't know this, but he's convinced that he can tell a drone pilot what to do and when, because he read a blog somewhere sometime, and he's convinced that the false and misleading information he picked up on some rando blog gives him the authority to do whatever he wants whenever he wants. Cops are typically the stupidest people in any given population. Still, because they drop their voice 2 octaves and carry a firearm, people concede to their perceived authority and show them undeserved deference.
Can I help you?
Hi, I'm Constable Dominey with the OPP.
Okay.
So, the reason I'm interacting with you today, okay, you're flying your drone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are you properly licensed to fly your drone?
What legislation are you referring to?
So, okay, under Transport Canada legislation,
Yeah.
okay, you have to be properly licensed to have a drone.
Yeah.
Okay, the drone must be, depending on what type of drone you have,
Mm-hmm.
unless if it's under 250, if it weighs under 250 grams, you don't need a license.
Mm-hmm.
But right now I don't know what kind of drone you're flying.
So you
The
seem
reason
to
I'm
skipped over the legislation that says you shouldn't interfere with the operation of a flight. So how about this? When I'm done the operation, we'll circle back.
When your operation involves your drone, okay,
You're
coming here-
interrupting.
Okay.
Shut your mouth. Shut your
Excuse
mouth.
me?
Shut your mouth.
Would you like to have a suckle at my zipper?
I'm talking to you here.
Yes,
This
and
is-
I'm
this is-
operating.
okay.
I was
Right
operating
now-
before you were talking.
Okay.
Wait, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth.
Right now,
Are you done?
you are operating, okay,
And
and you are pointing the camera inside a police station.
inside the police station with blacked out windows.
Regardless, it's a
No, it is
secure
regardless.
facility.
So what can I see through blacked out windows?
It's a secure facility.
I'm operating. I was operating before you interrupted me. So how about this? When my battery is done and it's safe for me to return, I will, and then we can continue this conversation.
No, you're gonna put the drone down now, and we're gonna have a
Under what
conversation
order?
right now.
No, we're not. You don't dictate what happens just because you're wearing a silly little uniform.
Genuine ostrich. 3 payments. Oh!
You're not investigating a crime. You can't articulate a crime.
I'm not articulating any crime. Right now, we're investigating
Then
a
how are you
security issue.
compelling action? You can't compel anything, especially since you don't know what you're talking about. Are we done?
No, we're not done because right
So
now.
you want me
it's a
to
security
continue to verbally spank you?
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
And you realize this is going on social media later.
Certainly.
So you're going to look pretty silly. Constable Dominey.
Yeah, that's my name.
All right, are we done now?
No, we're not
Because you're
done.
interrupting a flight operation. Are we done?
Okay, is it a planned operation with the FAA right now?
The FAA? What am I, in the United States of America?
My apologies.
I am the smartest man alive!
So I mixed up my terminology. I
Am I required to register my flight through Transport Canada or any of the local air traffic control centers? Am I required to? Constable.
Depends on what operation you are.
Okay, well, you look it up and you come back and we'll circle back.
But if you don't tell
Okay.
me what operation you're taking part of, I don't know what's happening.
I don't. Am I required to?
Your papers. We would like to eat your papers.
No, thank you.
Are you operating legally?
You need to move your vehicle because you're in my.
No, I do not need to move my vehicle. It's
So you're interfering with my operation. Thank you, Constable. Know it all, bitch. Fuck. So much stupidity. Gotta be embarrassing to be a cop, but you seem to lack those genes.
After ending the recording, the four cops had a little confab and discussed what, if anything, they could charge me with. After about 2 or 3 minutes or so, they concluded that once again, Sabrina was right, and that there was no regulatory or criminal conduct taking place, and that the verbal spanking hurt a little bit more than their power trip was worth. I was operating below 60 meters with a drone that was sub 250 grams and in unrestricted airspace. Thus, no pilot certificate was necessary. Dani, my drone, did not require registration, and no flight operation needed to be registered with NAV Drone, NAV Can, or what is called an FIC. To be clear, as a responsible drone pilot, I do have my pilot certificate, not a license. Dani is registered, and when I am in controlled airspace or operating above 60 meters, I do register my flight with NAV Drone. I go over and above what is legally required, and unlike Rod Farva, Chris Dominey, I do know my rights and obligations under the law governing flight operations in Canada. After they left, to show them that I had not been scared off, I sent Dani back up with a fresh battery and flew around for another 10 minutes or so. As an aside, I have a law license and I practiced criminal law for some time before becoming an analyst with the government. I am an expert in criminal law and have studied the laws governing mRPAS operations for more than 5 years, even before I owned a drone. So to be clear, I'm not seeking unsolicited advice from people that are not licensed to practice law in the province of Ontario.
That is one big pile of shit.